freaking magical, but it's not magic, it's science. The sky is blue, leaves are green, except these leaves are also blue? Yeah, that's not some AI generated video or some CGI. That's an actual blue leaf. There's over 100 plants with these blue leaves, and scientists recently found even more. It also comes in like iridescent greens and purples, which is why I'm wearing this shiny green makeup to match. And I just think this is so beautiful. It's also really applicable for like photonics and material science. And the better we can understand these kinds of like really odd and interesting plant adaptations, the better we'll be able to like push forward conservation efforts. Hey, I'm Niba, this is Osmosis, and these are my notes on these beautiful iridescent blue leaves, and also just generally me nerding out about light and nature for however many minutes straight. And if you want to get more stories of nature like zombie forests and what plants are safe for your pets, you can check out my socials. I'm at NotesByNiba on all platforms. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you'd like to support me even more in sharing these stories of science, you can check out my Ko-Fi. The link is in the description below. I'm so excited to get into this with you, and so first I want to talk about what even are these blue leaves. And I'm not talking about blue pigment like morning glories or hydrangeas. This video is about iridescence. So when we look at like a carrot, hang on, let me get a carrot. So when we look at like a carrot, this carrot looks orange because it has orange pigments in it. When we have like the rainbow of light, the pigments absorb all of that light and reflect back orange. This is selective light absorption. But these blue leaves aren't blue because of pigment. They're blue thanks to structural color. It's the same iridescence that you see on like butterflies or birds or beetles. And because it's iridescent, that's why it depends so much on the angle that you're looking at it from, and also the direction of that original light. With these leaves, if you shined like a really bright light on them, like the light we have in a laboratory or the light that we normally look at these leaves under, like all these leaves would just look green. But in places that are like deep in the rainforest where it's like very dark at the very bottom because there's just so much stuff above that the sunlight just doesn't like filter all the way through, you only get like teeny tiny bits of light there. You kind of see where we're getting with this? And so with these plants that have this like structural color, a lot of the species just aren't like widely grown, so it's kind of hard to get a hold of them. They mostly live in tropical areas and like hard to reach places like the mountains of Venezuela. So no one's really done like a full survey of plants with structural color because, you know, it was just really freaking hard. In plants, we know that there's 4 structures that do this. I'll list them over here. So the studies might make you think that structurally colored chloroplasts and helicoidal cell walls are found in like 5 types of plants. And you might think the cellulose films that give structural color are only found in 2 types of plants. But nah, bruh, it's way more than that. But in this video, we're just going to be focusing on the helicoidal cell walls because that's what's causing a bunch of these ones. Enter Clive and his team of dedicated researchers. Clive is very into plant biology and photonics. And a lot of his research is about these plant adaptations. Love how I'm calling him Clive as if we're like pals or something. If you're seeing this, I love your research. So him and his team are from the University of Bristol and the Royal Botanic Gardens, and they're like, we gotta figure out more about these iridescent leaves, because clearly they're probably as jazzed about it as I am. But it is quite difficult and very expensive to just fly everyone out to the rainforest and then just go traipsing through the jungle and just sort of happen upon some of these leaves. That is a lot to undertake, but luckily they figured out a solution. So they collected 2 types of plants, ferns and monocots, and they got samples that were both living and preserved. The living plant samples came from commercial sources and also from the Kuala Belelong Field Studies Center and the Labi Forest Reserve in Brunei. Doing my best with pronunciation on these. And here's where it gets really cool, because for the plants that they couldn't get fresh, they got dried samples from the Royal Botanic Garden herbarium. Herbariums are full of hundreds of pressed plants, and there's so much information in these, and they're just sort of sitting there. And I feel like there's just so much research we could be doing with it if only this stuff was frickin' funded. It is incredible that you can learn this much from plants that aren't even living, literally just pressed samples. There are herbariums out there that have plant samples that are 400 years old, so they really preserve quite well. I even made a video about how you can press flowers and leaves for your own enjoyment, whether you want to make a little sciencey collection of the plants next to you, or make arts and crafts, or just aesthetic vibes. But wait, you say, maybe a dried up brown leaf from a herbarium wouldn't tell us very much about color, wouldn't it? Yes, it can. Because yeah, pigment color does fade over time, but structural color stays intact even when the leaf dries out. But the thing is, these specimens, they barely stay structurally colored because the cell walls completely dry out. But the thing is, if you take these leaves and soak them in water and leave it overnight, that can rehydrate them. And that reveals a striking structural color. And that is exactly what Klein's team did. So remember how I said that blue color wasn't from blue pigment? So when light shines on these leaves, there's these tiny little nanoscale structures that interact with the light. And those structures are what's causing the color, not the pigment. Are you eating my plant again? And in this video, like I said, we're going to be talking about helicoidal cell walls. Imagine like a long cellulose molecule that is like lined up in parallel. That is like one single layer. And now on top of that, there's another layer and another layer and another layer and another layer. So you're having like this stack of cellulose, right? But the thing is, each new layer is laid down at a slight angle from the previous one. So there's like one layer, and then the next layer isn't like flat on top. It's like a teeny bit off to the side. And eventually it makes this like spiral pattern all the way around. And eventually you're going to have a layer that's facing this way and another layer way on top of it that's also facing this way, because again, structural spiral. And so the shortest distance between these two layers that like eventually form this 360-degree angle, this is called the pitch. And when this distance of pitch matches like a wavelength of light, it reflects that light back like super strong. So the cellulose fibers in these layers are naturally bending the light, which is what makes it look so colorful when you look at it from different angles. I think it'd be so cool to have like wings or to have like the ability to see in the dark. And I also think it would be so cool to have these structures and be able to just like glow, like iridescent. Because yes, they're adding like strength and support to the leaves. Cellulose is kind of like a little bit of a skeleton for plants. And these structures could also be really useful for doing photosynthesis when there's not a lot of light around, when you're at like the bottom of a rainforest, for example. You could use these structures to like deter herbivores away from you. Like imagine being a little insect like coming along, like munching on the leaves, when all of a sudden you come across a plant that is just like flashing blinders like right in your face. What an odd, like amazing adaptation. So back to these researchers. They have their samples from the herbarium, they've rehydrated it. Now they're going to take it to a microscope, a transmission electron microscope, and check to see if these helicoidal structures are there. And yeah, sure enough, these structures appeared in a lot of plants. The next step is to check the light reflecting off the leaf by shining a light on it and then measuring the light that's reflected back. It sounds pretty simple, but there's actually a lot of steps and equipment involved. Like there's a halogen lamp, a linear polarizer, a CCD camera, and a spectroradiometer. Probably not cheap. And ultimately, they confirmed that the observed colors were indeed due to the helicoidal structures. And this is where they also found that most of the species do reflect blue light, but also like green and purple were also common. So they compared their findings across many different species and genuses. I mean, I guess genera. So in total, they found these helicoidal structures in 20 species, 19 of which had not been previously like characterized at all. That is like freaking huge. And combined with the comparative analysis, that means that the number of species we think have these like structurally colored leaves is now over 130 across 35 different genera. When they look at like the tree of life and seeing how all these different species are connected, they realize that this must have evolved over 38 times. That means like each plant thought of it like independently. That is such a cool example of convergent evolution. And just look at how sick these leaves are, here and here and here. And I know that learning more about the planet is only going to help us learn how to live with the planet even better. I'm mildly annoyed that scientists have to justify like why we want to know things even more than that, beyond just like we want to learn about the planet, but sure, let's justify it even more. It's really common for like nature's designs to inspire technological innovations. Understanding these structures can lead to innovations in material science and photonics, like more efficient optical devices or like more lightweight materials. So the next time you see a sparkle emoji or a leaf shimmering in the sunlight, you can remember that there's a whole magical world of science behind sparkles. If you enjoyed this video or you're interested in hearing more about stories of nature, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you didn't, then tell me why in like a useful way. If you have any thoughts, questions, tips, concerns, or just general compliments, feel free to leave a compliment, and I'll see you on the next page. Osmosis, this is not a snack for you. You fit so well, and hey, don't eat that. It's meant to be cute looking. Hey, please stop eating that. It's a cute plant, but that doesn't mean you can eat it. Love how I'm calling him, hey, stop eating that.